In all likelihood, he will start both, is Kevin De Bruyne at the end of the day. He is an absolutely sensational player. Hello and welcome back to the Premier League preview on my channel. I believe this will be the fourth upload on this channel this week, so if you have missed out, be sure to click on my channel and find out what you missed out on this week. There was a 2-Minute Tuesday which involved why football should be banned during the coronavirus lockdowns, and also an important one for this week's set of fixtures, what to do with the double game week, who you should be triple captaining, and really what tips you can take away from a double game week. And so if that's something that interests you, I'll leave a link to them in the description. So without further ado, this week, as I said, is a double game week. I won't go through all of the fixtures because I'd be here until the end of 2021, but I know that Chelsea and Leicester face off, which is a big game actually. Both teams looking to push for Champions League spots, both teams in and around the top half of the table, which is a big game for them both. Chelsea need to prove something with Frank Lampard. Another big game is Manchester United, who take on Liverpool, the two front runners so far this season, facing off. My bet's on Liverpool to win that one. I think they are a class act and they're just slightly above Manchester United at this current moment, but I wouldn't love to be proved wrong. Why would I say that? I'd love for them to draw, so then it helps Chelsea. But I would love to see a really competitive game, and if Manchester United do prove me wrong, then fair play to them. I know Manchester City have a double game week where they take on Villa. Again, another big game, another team in the top half of the table, pushing for European places, something which we didn't expect from last season. So the first player I have chosen to watch this week in the players to watch section, obviously there's a lot of games going on, so it's hard to pick one player, but I think a player to watch is Marcus Rashford. Manchester United play against Liverpool this weekend. It's, as I said, the two top dogs at the minute going against each other, so a really interesting game, and I think Marcus Rashford is a player who could decide this game. On both sides you've got talent everywhere. That's all I can say. You've got fantastic players with the likes of Bruno Fernandes, Marcus Rashford, and of course Liverpool's front three. I think Marcus Rashford could be an influential player. We know Bruno Fernandes can create a lot of goals, score a lot of goals, but I think Marcus Rashford is the player to turn the game. And against Liverpool, against a side that is very, at the minute, weak defensively because Gomez and Van Dijk are both out at time of speaking. You don't know with that Liverpool squad, they could have about 4 different players all injured. But notably, those two are injured. And as fantastic as the likes of Fabinho, Matip have been when they have come into the squad, Marcus Rashford and Bruno Fernandes could be a completely different ballgame for these defenders. Two attackers who know what they are doing. They are proficient in attack and effective as well. And that's really the difference between the top dogs in this league and the rest of the pack. In order to break down this Liverpool side, which we know is so strong, Marcus Rashford is going to have to be really, really effective. The next player I have chosen to watch this week is Jack Harrison. Might seem a little bit strange, but Leeds United have been a team that have been scoring lots of goals this season, and I've actually been quite impressed with Jack Harrison. He's been very direct in his running. We saw it against West Brom with his fantastic goal, with his 1-2 with, I think it was Patrick Bamford, and a great finish. They've got 2 games this weekend. Alright guys, how are you doing? So, I'm just currently editing this video, and at this exact point I realised that Southampton and Leeds United are no longer playing, and that was the main point I was making about Jack Harrison, how important he would be in this team. So the point still stands. I think Jack Harrison will be really, really effective against Brighton, and I think the direct running can cause a lot of issues. I'm obviously not going to play the clip now because it's pointless, because it doesn't make any sense, but I do think they are going to cause a lot of problems for Brighton this weekend, and like I say at the end, it doesn't matter who you come up against with this Leeds United team, they are going to create chances, and against a team which is maybe a bit weaker in defence, it will cause problems. And so that's why I think Jack Harrison or any of the Leeds United attackers will be a player to watch this week. Cheers, and we'll get on with the video. The final player I have chosen to watch this week, I have spoken about briefly in my Fantasy Premier League tips video, and why I think he's a good shout to be a double double captain, triple captain this week. Kevin De Bruyne, I think, is going to be a big player to watch this week. For me, best midfielder in the world, but not just for that reason, but because of the fantasy football. And I think a lot of people will be watching him intently, as a lot of people will be triple captaining him next week against Crystal Palace and against Villa. These are games that you'd expect Kevin De Bruyne to thrive in, and yet again I think he really could. It's unlikely that he would not feature in both games. He will maybe start the first one, then be subbed on late in the second one, but in all likelihood he will start both. It's Kevin De Bruyne at the end of the day. He is an absolutely sensational player. Kevin De Bruyne has been good so far this season, and they look to have their mojo back in recent weeks. They put a really good performance out against Chelsea and Manchester United in the Cup as well, and Kevin De Bruyne has really been the centre of that. And in order to thrive next week, they'll need Kevin De Bruyne to be at his best. For me, he's top 3 in the world currently, and I think he is vitally important to both your fantasy football team and Manchester City this week. Well, that concludes this week's Premier League preview. If you have enjoyed, as always, be sure to like and subscribe, and maybe share it with a friend if you found these tips helpful. But I will see you on my next video on Tuesday, which will be the second part of my 2-Minute Tuesday mini-series, why Premier League football should continue throughout lockdown. So I will see you on that video. Cheers!